I'm Dylan.
And I'm Kiyan.
And this is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast where we sing every time we need to transition from one thing to another.
And we're accompanied by 60s electronic music.
Which was good in some parts and terrible in others.
Yeah, I thought it was just terrible in all parts.
I thought there were some scenes where it was good. But anyway, like we said last week, there was a new title sequence.
With sequins.
What?
Little, the bead thing? No, I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying as usual. But no, this is the first time they've changed the title sequence. And the first time you see the Doctor's face
superimposed
onto
over
it. Yeah. And it's basically the same exact thing. There's a new font for the title, but it's still some generic.
Well, the video effects have changed because I guess they re-recorded it, I suppose.
Right.
Do you remember that scene in An Adventure in Space and Time where they're filming the title sequence and the guy's like, hey, get in front of the camera. I want to see what it looks like with your face there. And he's like, oh no, that looks terrible. Yeah, it's pretty funny now considering it's basically what they did for the new title sequence.
But yeah, they were supposed to have a new theme song accompanying this new title sequence, but according to
sources, there was a production error and it wasn't used until the next serial. So we'll talk about that next week.
Right, I like how they just let stuff like this fly on this show. Like, I mean, if you think about all the production errors and other stuff we've read over since the beginning, since we've started watching, there's just a bunch of stuff that I guess they were just winging it, or they just kind of just let it go. I mean,
kind of a dodgy production, to be honest, but
yeah.
This entire serial was just kind of odd, I guess, would be the word.
I didn't like it.
I thought there were some interesting concepts. Like in the whole Utopia, singing every time the shift changes and we live by following those singers type thing. It's an interesting concept.
Yeah, not very fleshed out though. And just, I don't know. Serial just didn't hold my attention at all.
So the serial does not start with the Doctor. It starts with
some other guys.
It starts
with
the singing.
It's called the Macra Terror, by the way.
It starts with the singing. And then you're all like, what is this? Is this a musical number?
Yeah, so...
Doctor Who musical.
At the beginning of this serial, I thought I was accidentally watching, like, another serial, so I had to go check the episode list to make sure that this actually came after the moon base. And it did, so I was like, okay. But, yeah, then... in the middle of this big musical number, this guy just, like, rushes through, and then some guards go after him.
Mm-hmm. And his name is Medoc. And it's pretty important. He's hiding out, like, in the wilderness, I guess. And then the TARDIS materializes, and he sees it. And the Dr. Jamie, Ben, and Polly come out.
And...
Medoc attacks!
Yeah. Well, this is when they briefly mention the crab claw they saw at the end of the moon base, and then Medoc attacks.
Yep.
And then the guards who were chasing him show up. Finally, non-incompetent guards. But anyway, we're introduced to Ola, who's the chief of police, and we learn that Medoc is insane.
Well, he's considered insane, but as you find out later, he's actually the only sane person in the colony.
Yeah, basically.
So, as payment, I guess, for capturing Medoc, they take the Dr. Ben, Polly, and Jamie, that's a really long list of names, to the pilot, who's, I guess, in command of the base. Sort of.
Right, they kind of explained this later, and, I mean, we'll get to that, but for, like, an episode and a half, I didn't know the pilot was, like, the leader. I thought he was, like, an actual pilot of, like, a ship or something.
Oh, I think it's supposed to be implied that because they came over on a ship from Earth,
Yeah,
and the pilot was piloting the ship, was in command. They just kept the title.
Yeah, they explained that in like a later episode somewhere. So yeah, they meet him, and he tells them about their colony and how it's controlled by singing, like we were saying before, and how everyone has use of these facilities for like relaxation or whatever, and like massage therapy, I guess, or something like that.
So they take the adventurers to the relaxation area, I guess.
Yeah, and
there's humorous scenes.
Yeah, I don't even remember what they did.
Well, okay, Polly gets like a massage or something, and then
Polly gets her hair cut, doesn't she?
Yeah, actually, she might. And then I guess the haircut is like hitting on her because she's like, "Oh, you're the prettiest person in this colony, and you'll surely be voted top girl at the next election or whatever."
No, didn't he say you'll soon be voted president?
Something like that.
I was like, wait, what? I mean, I guess their leader is the pilot, so I'm assuming the president is something else. But I was just like, what?
That guy, stunned by Polly. And Jamie is suspicious, and rightly so, but he tells one of the guards that he doesn't really want these people doing things to him. So he asks the guard to take him away. And the doctor gets his clothes cleaned on him, I guess.
Yeah.
And he looks all spiffy, like, and he comes out, and they tell him about another machine for muscle toning, and the doctor's like, "I want that!" He goes in there and comes out, and his clothes are all dirty again. So, that was a big waste of time.
Right. Time they could have spent on something else much later in this serial, but no, they decided to use it on this instead. Anyway, they're taken to some sort of control room, and the pilot introduces them to the commander, who's the one in charge of the colony. I guess the pilot is second in command to this commander, and they receive all their orders from him.
Isn't he called the controller?
Yeah, the controller, not the commander.
And I guess everyone calls him Control.
Right. Yeah.
I thought Control kind of looked like Ben. Did you feel that?
I didn't think so.
He kind of looked like Ben.
They had the same haircut, but that's about it.
It could have been Ben based on what happens, but
I guess
Ben of the future.
Ben of the future.
So anyway, the doctor breaks into Medoc's cell while.
Well, we should probably mention that they don't actually meet the controller face to face. He's just a face on a screen, and then the other stuff happens.
Okay, so the doctor breaks into Medoc's cell. And he talks to Medoc about the creatures. I guess the doctor has seen them before? That's what it sounded like when he was talking to Medoc.
I mean, he does bring them up right then and there. Did he overhear Medoc talking about them before? I don't remember, to be honest.
Well, I don't think so, because he hears Medoc he overhears Medoc talking about the creatures, but not what they look like. And the first question the doctor asks Medoc is if they had claws.
Well, I assume that's just because of what he saw on the scanner.
Maybe.
Or maybe he's just really good at guessing. But yeah, Medoc is reluctant to disclose what he knows to the doctor, but he eventually does, and tells him about how the creatures always run around at night or whatever, or when no one's looking, and no one else believes him, and everyone thinks he's crazy.
Right. So basically, Medoc escapes. And the guards show up, and they want to arrest the doctor. But he gets out of it by, 1, telling them he didn't know the rules, and 2, by claiming he was releasing a prisoner he captured in the first place. Which I guess they just accept.
Yeah, that definitely wouldn't fly, like, in most places, but luckily for him, it did. And I got the impression that he wasn't fully off the hook because of this thing that happens right after that where they call Medoc in, and he admits that the doctor wasn't trying to help him escape, but was in fact trying to stop him from escaping, to which the pilot responds by he commends the doctor for that, and I was like, okay, you're believing the escaped prisoner that nobody has any respect for and everyone thinks is crazy. Okay.
So Ben, Polly, and Jamie are in sleeping cubicles, and the Doctor actually ends up leaving the colony to go find Medoc after curfew, and they find a crab-like creature in the darkness.
Right. And there's some guards. That's where episode 1 ends. And there's some guards. Episode 2 starts with some guards looking around for Medoc and the Doctor. And Medoc has the bright idea that now...
to turn himself in.
Right. I mean, he thinks the guards will believe him about the creatures now that there's one right there and the Doctor saw them also. So they turn themselves into the guards, and they can't get a word in, and the guards just take them back and, arrest them.
Yeah. Genius. But the Doctor... Medoc's just... Medoc... This is the part where Medoc tells them that the Doctor was there to capture Medoc again and trying to get him to give himself up. So they let the Doctor go, and I guess he just immediately figures it out, or he just knows this, but he breaks into Polly's sleeping cubicle and disables the weird voices and sleeping gas.
Right, they're subliminally... The colony subliminally messages people in their sleep with, propaganda to obey the control and to work hard or whatever.
Right, and Jamie had woken up in the middle saying those weird voices, so Jamie is unaffected when the Doctor breaks in and disables that one. But Ben
is just completely under their control.
Yep, he turns the Doctor in, and Polly and Jamie for destroying the equipment, and they get sent to the labor camp.
To the mines. The gas mines. And apparently Medoc is in the mines now too, even though it's only been 5 minutes. So the Doctor, Jamie and Polly are put to work, but the Doctor's given...
the scene.
What?
We skip the scene with the controller and the crab claw. So that happens before they get sent to the gas mines.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that.
The Doctor and Ben and Polly... Not Ben, Jamie. Before they get sent to the gas mines, they try to convince the controller to show himself instead of a still image.
Right, because they don't believe that the controller is, even real. So...
they get an image, a video of an old man.
Yeah, I didn't understand how they convinced him to do this. They just kept saying, show us a real image, you don't exist, and the controller was like, yes, I do. But why did he need to show an actual image? I mean, why did he?
Because maybe the pilot was starting to question it too.
He was.
So...
But, I mean, Control, you didn't have a plan for this? You didn't have some sort of backup idea?
Yeah, the backup plan was that old man. And then the old man started spewing about how he wasn't really in control. And then you see that claw, I guess, to silence him, but I guess they forgot to change to the still image before the claw came on screen.
Exactly.
So Polly goes, oh my god, the Macra are in control! So, that's how episode 2 ends.
Then the other stuff we were talking about happens.
Right, they get sent to the gas mines. Medoc is there, and they put the Doctor as a supervisor.
Smart.
Well, Medoc says that by the rules they need to have a supervisor, and he elected the Doctor. And the Doctor tried to give the safe job to Polly, but Polly's like, no, I wouldn't know what to do, Doctor. And then Jamie says, well, wouldn't you be able to better make use of the opportunity, Doctor?
Wink, wink.
And Doc's like, oh, yes.
Like, yeah, I would. So he does that. And in the mines, Polly and Jamie come across a door that looks like it was recently built.
Mm-hmm.
And it's locked. And then what?
They ask Medoc about it, and he says it hasn't been opened forever. And so Ben has been sent by the pilot to keep an eye on
the Doctor.
Yeah, the Doctor and Polly and Jamie.
Wait, wasn't there that whole thing with the Doctor writing the equation?
Yeah, that happens next.
Doesn't that happen before Ben shows up?
No.
No?
No, because the doctor notices Ben just before he's about to write the equation, then Ben goes into the gas mines to go spy on Polly and Jamie.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that happens. Well, there's this other dude in the mines, Officia.
This other dude, he's the head of the guards. He's been there the whole episode.
Well, I didn't notice him until the mines. So they steal his keys and go through the door.
No, that happens after the equation.
But what? Ben's not in the room for the equation.
Right, he sees the doctor, then he leaves, and the doctor does the equation, and then they steal his keys. Because Ben is there, because Ben sees Jamie steal the keys, and he doesn't report Jamie till later. This is the start of when Ben starts questioning his conditioning.
Yeah, he doesn't go report it until the doctor talks to him about it.
Right, which is after he writes the equation.
What is even happening? Okay.
The doctor writes an equation on the wall. The pilot shows up. He wants to know how the doctor knows the equation because only 3 people in the colony know it. The doctor claims to have figured it out by looking at readings and the measurements. The pilot's like, oh, that's kind of impressive. Ben sees Jamie and Polly steal the keys from Officia because he gets blasted in the face with some gas, so he gets knocked out. Jamie steals the keys. Jamie tries to open the door. Jamie opens the door. Ben doesn't report Jamie or Polly, but then he reports them later when he figures out maybe he should report them. At that point, it's too late. Jamie's been locked in the old mine. That's what happens in episode 3. Done. We're moving on to episode 4.
Which starts with the Macra cornering Jamie.
Yep.
We forgot the entire scene with Ben and Polly and how he denies the Macra's existence, which was before all of this. It was before they were sent to the mines.
Reconstructions are hard to follow.
Well, I think we can just gloss over that. Ben and Polly confront the Macra. Polly goes to the control room with Pilot to talk about the Macra, and Ben denies their existence. Now back to episode 4.
It's not our worst. This isn't our worst summary.
Yeah, you're right. It's not, which is kind of sad.
Okay, episode 4. The controller decides to fill the old mine with gas, and the doctor decides not to kill Jamie. Instead, it's to keep something in there alive that they want to keep alive.
But it does start to kill Jamie.
So that's a plus for the Macra.
For them.
So
yeah, as gas fills the room, the Macra start to get more energy or whatever.
And Jamie gets less because he's dying.
But he manages to slip into a crevice, and then he shows up in some sort of cheer.
Not
group.
yet. There's still a scene with the pressure gauges that only go from 0 to full pressure. So Polly is looking at some pressure gauges with the doctor, and one is at full pressure and the other one's at 0, and the doctor says, plus must be made minus and minus must be made plus. But which is plus and which is minus? Anyway, he flips some switches and the gas drains from the old mine and goes somewhere else.
And then they make a break for it. Kind of. They sort of just saunter off into the next room.
Now this is the part where Jamie shows up in the...
Apparently the crevice leads him to a cheer group. These are the people who were singing the songs to motivate people.
The guy who was leading the cheer had a really funny face.
Yeah, he did. There was just one shot of him from the reconstruction. But, yeah. So they think Jamie's a new dancer, and they asked to see his license, and he was like, well, I'll just show you a dance instead. And they're like, okay. So he starts doing the Highland fling. And
so the guy's like, why do you call it that? He's like, because we ended by flinging ourselves out the door. Straight into the guards.
Yep. So now Jamie's captured.
Ben's with them. He's like, yep, this is the guy. Jamie's like, wow, Ben, you gave me away.
And the doctor and Polly are... They were in the room with the pipes.
Yeah, and then they saw the Macra in control. So
they go to try to tell Pilot about it, and he listens to them. So he and the doctor go... So the doctor can show him the Macra, and then Control puts Ola in command because apparently Pilot's been tainted.
Ola and Pilot have this big argument about who's in control. Ola's like, I control the guards, and Pilot's like, well, you listen to me. Sunny.
So the pilot sees the Macra, and within 1 second of him seeing them, he's like, "We have to kill all of them." And I was like, "Isn't that a little extreme? You just saw them half a second ago. You don't even know what they are yet." But yeah, I guess he's right. I mean, they do end up doing some stuff, which is pretty vague, actually. But anyway, I read on that there was only one Macra prop, which made sense at this point because there was only been one Macra on screen at once up to now, and there only
was
will
two
be.
cornering Jamie.
But they showed them they never
one
were
at
in
a
this.
time.
Yeah. So yeah, they now need to find a way to destroy the Macra because they're using the people as slaves to.
Unfortunately, the Doctor and Polly and Jamie get trapped in a room with the pilot, and they start pumping gas in there to kill them. Luckily, Ben has broken free of his mental conditioning just in time to start flipping switches for the Doctor.
So the Doctor tells him what to do, and he does it, and then there's a big explosion, and presumably all the Macra die, and everyone lives happily ever after.
Right, because it cuts to a parade, and they want to elect the Doctor the new pilot, or the new controller.
But
and
then they decide to fling themselves out of there into the TARDIS.
Yeah, they dance their way out of the room, and then it just hard cuts from the music of the parade to the outro theme.
Yep.
You don't even get to see the TARDIS again.
Nope.
They could literally do anything after this serial before the next one if the next one just starts with them in the TARDIS. Maybe they go on 6 months of adventures.
Yeah. So that was pretty disappointing.
So Medoc died. We forgot to mention.
Right, we forgot to.
A Macra killed him.
And what's his face?
Died.
Yeah. So yeah, like we were saying before, they could have used the 10 minutes they spent in the recreation rooms resolving this serial, but no. We don't know what happened to the Macra. Are they actually all dead? Are they still in control?
Supposedly they return 40 years later in the reboot. I haven't actually seen that episode.
I wonder how they were popular enough to do that.
They weren't. I feel like they were just like, we need an obscure enemy, and I'm too lazy to think of a new one. Oh yeah, how about them Macra? Should have brought back the Vord.
Yeah, they should have. Because the Macra were pretty unmemorable. Overall, this serial just didn't hold my attention. Maybe it was because I watched all 4 of them in a row yesterday, but
why did you do that?
I was busy. But yeah, I just thought this serial was pretty bad.
We have 6 next week.
Oh, joy. And 7 the week after that. Yay. Anyway, that's not really the point here. I don't know. The Macra were pretty...
That's because they were the villains, but they never really did... They were the main antagonists, but they never did anything. Everybody else did everything.
They were a plot device, basically, and they were pretty bad antagonists, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, they were, because they didn't do anything. They just gave commands to other people, which I guess makes them a good villain in that it means they succeeded in taking over, but it doesn't make for very interesting television.
Well, we don't know if they succeeded in taking over or if they were there in the first place, or...
Well, that's a colony, so the colony must have came later, so...
So we don't know if the Macra are, indigenous, and they, installed themselves in the colony, or if they came later. But,
the Doctor mentions they're like a germ. They infested the colony.
Yeah, he parallels them to, a brain parasite, and I was like, that's going a little far, Doctor.
The recorder made a reappearance in the serial, which it didn't show up in the Moonbase, but it did show up in this one.
When? I didn't even pick up on it.
After the Doctor had escaped to go talk to Medoc, when he came back to Ben, Polly, and Jamie, who were in that room by the gas mines, he walks in playing the recorder.
Oh. Huh. Yeah, but something I wanted to bring up about the Macra, what were they? I mean, I guess they were supposed to be crabs, but at the same time insects? Was that it? I mean...
Well, Polly calls them insects at one point, but then immediately in the same sentence she says big crab-like things.
And then the pilot calls them, bacteria or something, so just... I don't know.
Maybe they plan to bring them back in the future, so they left some things ambiguous.
Maybe they plan to bring them back 40 years later. Maybe the reboot was all a part of their plan. Maybe they planned out the entire 60-year run of this show before, or 50-year run before it even started. No, that didn't happen.
Well, that would be pretty impressive.
It would be.
On the other hand, I don't think they did that. Well, I mean, it's just like the ambiguity of a lot of things parallels with how we didn't know a lot about the Daleks, except that they, because of their history, they were intolerant to the radiation. And we didn't know anything besides that, and we only learned more when we got them in the Dalek invasion of Earth, and then the chase, and then the Daleks master plan. But
you have to admit, we knew more about the Daleks and the Cybermen in their first serials than the frickin' Macra.
Okay, not the Cybermen. All we knew was they were from Mondaz, and they wanted to blow up the Earth because it was in the way.
That's
more less than the Macra!
No, that's still more, because the Macra were just weird crab things that somehow controlled stuff with gas.
They needed the gas to survive, and they had taken over the colony because they needed the gas to survive.
But they're still worse villains than the Cybermen.
Yeah, they're worse, but that doesn't mean we know less about them.
We still know less about them, because, like, what are their motives? Well, we know
their motives. They need the gas to survive.
But we barely know anything else about them. They barely talk. They barely have any interactions.
They don't talk.
Well, then who was... Well, I thought they talked through the controller, actually. I mean...
I thought that was just, like, a computer-generated voice or something. I didn't imagine that was the Macra talking.
No, because, the way I saw it was, like, it was the Macra talking, and then when they needed to show an actual person, they're like, quick, get this old man.
Well, like, the wiki says the old man is clearly an older version of the image they used for the controller. So I felt like maybe they were using the controller's voice from when he was younger, and just manipulating it to say things.
No, that's interesting. I didn't think he looked like the
Neither
young
did I, but
picture at all, but the wiki is written by just random people.
This is also true, but I still imagine they were using someone's voice and manipulating it, instead of having the Macra talk.
They could have gone into detail about this, but did they? No!
They were too busy having Ben be mind-controlled. Right. We should mention this serial was written by the same person who wrote The War Machines and The Savages.
Yeah, I was drawing some pretty heavy parallels with The Savages here. I mean, Ian Stuart Black really likes the concept of, like, a colony with a dark secret.
We should mention this is the serial he wrote that didn't write out a companion. So good job figuring that out, Ian Stuart Black.
Yeah, thankfully, because he probably would have written one of them out in a terrible way like he did with Steven and Dodo.
Yeah, there's some pretty heavy parallels to be drawn with the Savages, like the utopia that's using a lesser... in which there's like a dark secret where a lesser species is being used to serve the higher up one. Like, I mean, in this one, the Macra aren't the ones who are freely roaming the colony, I guess, whereas in the other one, you have the people roaming the colony using the outside Savages.
Right. I don't know. I guess Ian Stuart Black wanted to expand on the idea he had before, I'm guessing, so this was kind of his attempt at doing that, but personally I thought it worked out a lot less well than the Savages. I mean, I don't know.
Well, in the Savages, you knew who the villain was from episode 1. In this one, you didn't figure it out till episode, 3, because...
end of episode 2.
Well, not really, because up until the point where you see the Macra in the control room, you think that the enemy is actually the controller, and that the controller is not a Macra, and that it's just a guy who's trying to cover up some deep, dark secret. And then when you find the Macra, you realize the Macra are the villains.
Well, you know something's up with the Macra, but way before that, but I guess you don't figure out they're the villains until then.
Yeah. Which, it worked well for the Moon Base not finding out that the Cybermen were the villains till the end of episode 1, sometime into episode 2-ish. But it did not work here at all. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Which brings up an interesting point about a reboot episode I watched yesterday. If you're gonna have a big reveal that the Cybermen are the villains of the episode, don't title the episode Rise of the Cybermen.
Yeah, I think one of the working titles for the moon base was Return of the Cybermen.
Yeah, that would have given it all away.
Yeah.
If you wanted to be dramatic, you can't put it in the title. It's just a...
Yeah, this one was called the Macra Terror. So...
Well, until you learn who the Macra are, you're just like, what?
Yeah, I really don't have anything else to say about this. Because it wasn't that good. Oh, yeah. Apparently Polly gets her hair cut, which I saw it, I noticed it, but then for like the rest of the serial, I was like, wait, did she actually? But yeah, apparently she does.
There was one final thing I wanted to say. The concept was interesting. I thought the concept about the whole music and using that to like work your day around, I thought that was an interesting concept. So originally, like after the first episode, I was like, hey, this could be pretty cool. Like, this is a pretty cool idea for a utopia. And then it all went to hell in episode 2.
Yeah, because they don't expand on that at all.
Yeah, that was honestly the most interesting part of the serial was how that... Because I wanted to know how that colony developed to be like that. I wanted to know why they were using music or like singing to build their day around.
Well, maybe it's sort of an expansion on how we today use bells to control our lives. And like...
True, but does anybody really use bells anymore?
Well, you wake up to an alarm.
I don't.
Okay. Most people wake up to an alarm, or like a substantial number of people wake up to an alarm. And then like, if you're in school, like primary school, or like your mandatory schooling from like 5 to 18 or whatever, you're using bells to like control your schedule or mark your schedule. Okay. And yeah.
But as soon as you enter the work world, there's no more... This just... You show up to work at X time, you leave at X time, and what happens between that's not your lunch break, you just do stuff.
Well, if you think of bells in a more expanded sense, there's, you know, your phone ringing, messages from people that are signified by sounds, or like, you know, on your electronics to signify that you should check something or do something. So I don't know. Maybe they just expanded on that and they're like, hey, music is better than these terrible sounds. Let's just control everything with music.
I guess.
I don't know.
It's still interesting. I wanted to know why.
Too bad they didn't expand on it at all.
Damn it. And now they'll never expand on it. Because they'll probably never revisit this colony because the Doctor doesn't want to be controller. And the colony is instituting like a race every year, and they're going to give the Stranger's Trophy to whoever does the best. Like, what kind of a terrible name for a trophy is that?
The Stranger's Trophy. Yeah. So, overall, pretty unenjoyable serial.
It was just...
This was the first Second Doctor serial I didn't like.
Yeah, it was just kind of dreary, to be honest. It just kind of trudged along.
It didn't have to exist.
Well, I guess they needed something to fill a slot.
Yeah.
Some people will like the serial and some people won't, but that's with every serial.
There's going to be that one guy who's like, Macra Terror, best serial on the show.
Maybe we hate on all these serials because they're reconstructions.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe it's better if we had footage. I don't know.
On the bright side, we'll have no more reconstructions in like a few months.
A few months. Yay.
But think about how many non-reconstructions we'll have after that.
Well, as soon as we hit the third Doctor, there's no more reconstructions.
Exactly, and that'll mean years of no reconstructions, so we only have to put up with a few more months of it. But yeah, I think that's that.
So there was something I wanted to say about the moon base that I forgot to say last week, and I realized it like halfway through the week, and I was like, whoa, I forgot to say this, and I was even thinking about it the day before we recorded. But I wanted to say the progression of serials for the start of the Second Doctor was actually really smart. Like, starting with the Daleks, and then moving into introducing a new companion, and then an adventure with a new companion, and then bringing back the Cybermen. I thought that was a really smart way to go about introducing the Second Doctor. Because not only did it show his differences with the First Doctor in how he handles the Daleks and how he handles the Cybermen, but it also showed what he would do if he got a new companion, as well as like how much he would care about that new companion in a way.
I guess, yeah.
So, I mean, I wanted to mention that last week because I know how we were talking about it might have been too soon to bring back the Cybermen. But I want to say it was actually a pretty smart idea to bring them back at that point in conjunction with the three previous serials, just as a character development standpoint for the second Doctor.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, yeah, I agree with that. But I want to say, on the other hand, with how sketchy the production of this show is, did they really think about it that in depth? Maybe. But I guess we'll never know.
They might have. I mean, a changeover of the main actor would be a pretty big event in the show, and you'd think they put a lot of thought into what they wanted to do with him.
I guess, yeah. But I don't think we'll ever know.
I guess, I mean, I think most of the people who worked on the show back then are probably dead. I mean, I know the guy who played Ian is still alive.
Peter Purves is still alive.
Peter Purves is still alive. Caroline Ford is still alive. I don't know how many behind-the-scenes people are still alive, but I know Verity Lambert isn't.
Yeah, and of course, Hartnell's long gone.
So is Troughton. And Pertwee. So, yeah.
That about wraps it up.
Yeah,
for this.
The spiel. Rate us on iTunes, because that helps, because then they know that we're doing well 35 episodes in. Check out the website, decorativevegetable.com. Check out the Facebook page, Trust Your Doctor, posting cool facts that we don't mention in the episodes on the Facebook page.
Yep.
Because we usually don't mention some of the cool things behind the scenes going on with the episodes, and if we don't, then those end up on the Facebook page. And email us at thedoctor@decorativevegetable.com. You can email us questions, comments, concerns, advice.
Angry rants about how the Macra are the best villains ever.
Yeah, if someone actually sends us an email about how the Macra Terror is the greatest serial, we'll actually read it, and we'll probably talk about it next week.
Yeah, definitely.
But, yeah.
But, yeah, next week we have the faceless ones. Who could they be?
First Doctor.
But, yeah, until then, the end.